Life was lonely and blue. Yeah, I was sad as a sailor. I was an angry one too. Then there was you appeared.
Hello, welcome to Rescue Roundtable. I'm Mary Catalano, and here we are today with another wonderful guest we have, who's a dog trainer, a rescuer, etc., Robert Cabral. Hi, Robert. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Explain to us, what do you do, Robert? How did you get involved? What's your problem?
Well,
that's what I said to the last guest.
Yeah,
What's your problem? Why are you doing rescue?
Rescue seems to be a problem.
Who bit you with this?
I don't really consider myself a rescue worker. I'm not a hands-on rescuer. Bound Angels is about media awareness, public awareness about the plight of shelter animals and animals overall in this country and the world. So I train dogs as well, aggressive dogs, and I started out as a photographer, and I went into the shelters to just document some stuff. And I went in and I just started seeing these dogs that I was photographing, and I formed this spiritual bond, and I just knew that I had to do something, and giving money wasn't enough.
Why were you there initially to photograph them?
I worked as a photographer. I still do.
For?
I work for myself, but I shoot mainly beautiful women. And I thought, I love animals, so I went there and I started photographing just to document this as just a little project. And it kind of spiraled out of control and became, my whole new life. It kind of became obsessed with that.
How long ago was that?
It was only about a couple of years ago.
And which shelter did you go to?
The first one I ever went to was in Nashville. I was doing time down there. I lived there for 2 years. And then
doing time?
Yeah, I thought I wanted to get away from shooting beautiful women in Los Angeles. So I said, let me go to Nashville for a couple of years, and I tried to do music photography down there. And I ended up in a shelter, and when I came back here to work, I just ended up going to the shelters, and it was, it shocked me. It shocked me that a society like ours can put animals, that we're supposed to be an animal-loving nation, in situations like this. I thought it was really disgusting.
Yeah, it really much. Which shelter did you go to here?
The first one I went to was, I believe, the West LA shelter before it got rebuilt. And I visited several. I visited all the LA City shelters and everything. But it's really sad. And so the overall theme of shelters is really pathetic. Yeah,
because it's not really a shelter. It's a killing.
It's a holding tank.
It's a holding tank. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got a video that on boundangels.org. There's a link to our YouTube channel, and you can see of several of the media campaigns that we're doing, and one of them is, there is no shelter in our shelters.
Right.
It's a word that shouldn't even be used for what
I know,
what's
I
there.
don't use the word shelter, I use pound.
Yeah.
I don't think shelter is appropriate because it gives people the wrong impression.
Well, it gives everyone the wrong impression.
I do my adoptions in Santa Monica. Santa Monica is like big white people with big houses and money, and they're telling me that they don't know the animals are killed at the pound, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's just not that many miles away from where everything is slaughtered, and they don't even know.
But people live in a sense of denial. You have to think about that. I myself am a vegetarian, so people, when they eat meat, are also, and I'm not here to preach being a vegetarian, but I'm saying at least be in touch with the idea. Well, are you a vegetarian?
No.
Okay, well then, damn it.
I'm very close. No,
okay.
I'm very close.
But the idea is, it's not my idea to preach things, because I hate when people preach things. If you walk the walk and talk the talk, people eventually see that it's the right thing to do. And that's what I've done in my rescue organization, and as well as with vegetarianism. But the idea is, we should be aware of what's going on. And if you decide to buy a dog, which I'm highly against, buying a dog at a pet store is a horrible idea to start with.
Absolutely.
Because no legitimate breeder in the world would sell their dogs.
Well, I don't think anybody who breeds is legitimate.
Well, there is going to be people who buy bred dogs.
Yeah,
and as a trainer, I end up with people who have bought their dogs.
Right.
For right, wrong, or indifferent. There is no right way to buy at a dog store, a pet store.
Right.
100% we can totally agree on that.
Right.
And I'm 100% against that. So, and that's something we're not aware of, what's going on in a puppy mill, and what's going on in the shelter. Where the ending is a beautiful dog.
Right.
And that's what we all want, is a loving companion. And why not give a dog from a shelter a shot?
Absolutely.
And that's what we're all about.
Absolutely. So you have tell us what are some of your documentaries? You said you rescued a wolf hybrid.
Yeah, we rescued a wolf hybrid several months ago, and that was in the Cabral shelter. And this was somebody who thought this was a cool idea to have a wolf as a pet.
How did he get the wolf?
I have no idea, but you can buy a wolf hybrid. Believe me, if you search online, you can buy anything.
I'm sure you can.
And it's really disgusting because an animal like this, and most people who own dogs, are kind of not clued into behavior of dogs.
Right.
So this is a scary part. When you add to that the element of a wolf, which is a highly predatory animal, it's going to be very dangerous. You're going to have a lot of likelihood for attacks or acting out, that people are not, you're not going to be able to correct a wolf.
Now, they dropped the wolf off, or was it confiscated from?
From what I understood, the wolf was dropped off.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what you should do. If you don't want your dog anymore, you should just just drop it off somewhere and turn and walk away.
Yeah. Right.
Why care?
Yeah. Right.
So,
I know. It is a disgrace, and the pounds are a disgrace, and
Yeah.
and people ask people why, you know, they don't want to go to the pound. And
Right.
I don't want to go to the pound either.
Well, you know, the thing is that if you go to a pet store, you're going to get a lot of attention. You're going to walk in, there's going to be 3 people to help you. They're going to take the puppies out, you're going to play with the puppies, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And if you go to the shelter or the pound, you're going to end up searching for someone to help you.
Of course.
And there's some good people who work at the shelters,
yes.
Granted. It's not all bad. And I'm not here to bash the shelters because I'm trying to work with the shelters to revamp everything.
Right.
However, there's not enough of an element of making it conducive
Right.
to getting a dog from the shelter.
Right.
And shelters should be a happy place because they are a happy place. There's a good happy ending for everyone who walks out with a dog.
Right.
And this is what we need to focus on. Instead of the sadness in the shelters, which does exist, the sadness can be overwon by making a difference, taking dogs out of the shelters. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing is we've got to focus on people's responsibility of animal companionship, of not getting rid of their dogs and not seeing any animal as disposable.
That's right. That's the biggest problem.
Right.
I mean, it's like it's just a borrowed sort of an item, which
Sure.
is absolutely. We were talking before. I was talking with Helen, your
Right.
friend Helen. We were talking about you go in there and you're doing your paperwork to rescue some animals, mm-hmm. and 5 more are dropped off,
Right.
or double the amount of animals
Sure.
are dropped off in
Right.
a minute from what you just tried to rescue.
Well, this is the idea behind Bound Angels, is not necessarily taking dogs out of the shelter one by one, which rescue is doing. And a lot in the rescue community, people are working against each other as opposed to trying to pull together. We're all on one team here.
Right.
We're all trying to do the right thing. And we all need to pull together and say, how can I help you? And I remember Helen called me and said, there's a dog, Paolo, in the West LA shelter. And this was a pit bull who I guess was in there for 3 or 4 months or something, mm-hmm. like that. And this was an amazing dog. Mm-hmm. And anyone who says pit bulls are bad dogs has just read way too much stupid information.
Right.
They're amazing animals.
They're very loving dogs.
They're an amazing. This is
Crazy
why
loving.
they're easy to make aggressive, because they're very conditioned to human response. They will do whatever it takes, to win a human's affection. Mm-hmm. So if you train it to be aggressive, it will be aggressive. Mm-hmm. And this whole misnomer of the locking jaws and all this bullshit is crap. Mm-hmm. So we put this video together on Paolo, sent it out via YouTube, mm-hmm. and I think it was 10 days later or so he got adopted, and he got a beautiful home.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
it's
great.
just a great story. And that's what my goal is with Bound Angels, is to get everyone to work together. Mm-hmm. If we pull together, we can make a difference. Mm-hmm. If we bash each other, it's never going to happen.
But the people have to be educated in the public, and they have to quit disposing of their animals.
That's the whole idea.
It's the main thing is that, they say, oh, the pounds kill them. Well, guess what? Who drops them off? The animals don't drive themselves to the pound.
Exactly.
They are not driving. They're mostly dropped off.
Right.
I believe it's mostly dropped off. I don't think there's stray animals running around as much as there are dropped off by people.
Now we have a lot with foreclosure.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is something that
we've always had a lot. I don't know if that adds as much. Well,
the foreclosure element that's a problem is, I own a home in Nashville, and when I rented my house out, I made a decision that I wanted someone to rent my home who had a dog.
Right.
A lot of people who own homes or apartment buildings are being very selfish and saying no pets.
Yeah.
They're also part of the problem.
Of course.
And they need to take responsibility that we're killing 5 million shelter animals a year, that every person who says no pets is part of this problem.
I absolutely 100% agree with you, because I have so many people. I do mostly cats because mm-hmm. they're easier. They don't bark. Sure. It's easier for me to handle. I do it myself.
Right.
They say they can't have an animal.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, how insane is that? You never really want an animal you don't want an animal that shits and pisses everywhere or tears up the house.
Sure.
Most people do not have those animals as pets.
Right.
Those are not the animals you're bringing in to have as a
Right.
pet. You have a cat that uses a litter box,
Sure.
licks his ass all day long,
Right.
he's really clean.
Yeah.
A dog pees outside.
Right.
What's
And licks
the
his
deal?
balls.
Or licks his balls, whatever.
Unless they're cut.
Whatever they can do.
Right.
But I mean, it's insane to me, the property owners. It's a big problem.
It's huge.
That's responsible for so many deaths of animals.
Absolutely.
Because people want the animals.
Right.
And I can't tell you how 25, 30 people a day come by to me and my adoptions and tell me how they can't have an animal.
Sure. It's disgusting.
It's a disgrace.
You know, here's the problem. We as humans are so selfish to think, you know, we impose these laws.
Yeah.
That we can't have animals. We should realize that we are animals. And although we're on a higher spiritual plane, with that plane comes an immense amount of responsibility. And that responsibility should be there for love for other animals. You know, it can start by not eating them, but it can trickle down from there in being compassionate to someone who has a dog, who has a cat. You know, that they're sharing their love with another animal, another one, if you want to say it, of God's creations.
You know, I had a woman I fostered kitties for me who had 2 beautiful greyhounds that she rescued. And her manager was at the building in West Hollywood, which is a great area for animal adoptions. I love to adopt out in West Hollywood.
Right.
Gay community is a fantastic such.
There's none better.
Fabulous.
Right.
And she said that her manager, her owner, said that they wanted people with animals because they felt they were more responsible and more long term.
Of course, it's true.
Yeah, they have a they've taken on a
Right.
responsibility of another
Right.
life, and they have the compassion
Sure.
to take care of that animal.
And they're not going to move as much.
That's exactly
You know,
right.
Of course.
They're not going to move.
But it's based, you know, a lot of the stuff, a lot of decisions we as humans make are based on selfishness.
Of course, of
and,
course.
you know, that comes with, you know, people who take dogs out of a shelter, which I've seen numerous times, and I've dealt with the trouble. You know, you can
Right.
get any trainer to come in, use a clicker and do whatever, and if it works, great. But if the dog is biting and the
Right.
dog is being aggressive to other dogs or other people, usually that's when my phone rings. The problem becomes people are treating dogs like they treat humans, which is another part of our selfishness of imposing our emotions onto a dog.
Right.
Dogs don't want to be hugged and kissed. It puts a different drive into a dog. A dog needs a clear leader. And unless you can give your dog clear leadership, you've got to be careful on what kind of breed of dog you pick. You know, and that's something that I've seen over and over again, that people get these dogs and they coddle them and they have them on the furniture and they
Right.
sleep with them. And
Right.
granted, my dog sleeps in bed with me, gets his teeth brushed every night, is on a completely organic raw diet, and I bake his treats. Okay, but my dog clearly understands that I am his leader.
Right.
And that makes him feel safe. Therefore, and he's a Chinese Shar-Pei, he will never attack another dog. I've got a bird that I can throw in front of him and he will walk away from it. Little child can hit him in the face, he turns and walks away because he understands leadership. And we need to do that to our dogs. We need to show them that we are their leaders, that they are safe. Then they won't act out unless we want to be selfish, and then turn the tables around, and eventually that dog is going to end up back in the shelter.
Right. I wish you could get your education to more people. You are reaching out to people
Right.
with your videos, et cetera,
Yes.
right? Because people don't understand this. They're not getting it.
That's true.
They're not getting it. I mean, I tell people come to me and they say, "Oh, I want a puppy." I go, "Why would you ever want a puppy? What
Right.
a pain in the ass. They
Right.
shit and piss everywhere.
Yeah.
You have to train them. If you don't train them properly, they're
lot
going
of
to be
work.
dumped at the pound."
Sure, absolutely.
I can't stand it. I want to kill everybody.
Right.
But I tell them, go get a dog.
Yeah.
I've rescued a lot of dogs. I've just transported dogs from the pound to a foster home.
Sure.
They're in my car for a half an hour and they worship at my altar.
Sure.
They make a connection to me that I did something for them. I don't
Right.
know how they do it.
Right.
I don't know why they do it. I don't think, like I said, I was telling Helen, I don't think there's many people that are worthy of the love of a dog.
Oh, I agree with
Because
you.
they are so unconditionally, and all they want to do is love you.
Sure.
People say to me, "I can't have a dog because I don't have a yard." I
Sure.
say, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's insane.
A dog
I don't have
is
a
going to
yard.
die at the pound because you
Yeah.
don't have a yard?"
Yeah. But this is excuses. See, people make excuses, and this is how they feel okay about themselves. I can't take care of the dog. Well, at least I brought him to the pound.
Right.
That's not an excuse.
No, it's not.
You know, first of all, if you can't take care of your child, you don't drop it at the nursery school.
Right.
You know, you make this responsibility. If I didn't have a home, then I would live in my car with my dog.
Right.
And when I first came back to LA, I spent 2 months living in a trailer at a friend of mine's place because I wasn't going to just move into any place with my dog.
Right.
And I had the money, but I lived in a trailer because I knew I could be safe there with my dog. And it was great. But when you're saying about the education, I write a blog. And if you look up on the internet black belt dog training, you'll be able to find my blog.
Oh, great, okay.
And so there's a lot of information, and I really love when people send me questions and stuff like that, because questions are always free, and I love answering them. But 90% of it stems from the issue that the dog does not see you, not you, but the person as a clear leader.
Right.
And dogs function on that. When you say you put a dog in your car, I'll go to the shelter and deal with any dog, hands down. The dog sees me as a clear leader they make up their mind right away. The alpha of a dog is established so quickly in the dog kingdom that oftentimes there's never a fight. You know, if there is, it's very clear and it's non-emotional. We as humans are very emotional with our dogs. So if the dog does something wrong, we yell at the dog.
Right.
We hit the dog. We do all these things. And a correction, a proper correction in the dog kingdom, humans don't understand and have no clue how to deliver it. And most dog trainers don't either.
Right.
Most dog trainers are great with doing little things, getting a dog to sit and to stay and to roll over and to fetch and to whatever, God knows what. But dealing with a dog's behavior is a very tricky thing and something that needs to be addressed very, very specifically from a dog's perspective. Because I can teach you to think like a dog, but I can't teach your dog to think like you. So we need to let go of our egos and say, how does the dog think? And what does the dog need? Because once you figure out what the dog needs and how simple it is to give it to him, you will have the most amazing, beautiful, loving life. A life that I would rather not have life than to have life without a dog. You know?
Oh, yeah. People are, yeah, I don't have a yard. This is a big excuse.
Yeah. I work a lot.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm a computer. And if you work a lot, get two.
That's exactly right.
You know,
that's exactly what I say.
Better reason to
exactly.
get two. And
absolutely.
There's small dogs.
Two older dogs.
Two older dogs.
They don't need to run around all day.
No.
They can keep each other company. You're saving two lives.
Right.
Listen, I don't let anybody have one cat.
Right.
If the cat likes other cats,
Right.
which sometimes they don't
Sure.
when I've rescued them, they've
Right.
already been established as an only cat.
Right.
They're all pissed off. They hate other cats.
Right.
Cats are born together. They all
Right.
live together.
Sure.
I never let anyone have a friendly cat
Right.
by itself.
Right.
I won't let that happen. It
Sure.
doesn't make sense mathematically to me.
Right.
But also the thing is people don't take into consideration when they get an animal, their whole thing. That's why rescues are good.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the whole look. What kind of a job do you have? How
Sure.
many hours are you home? You know, you
Right.
can't leave the animal alone.
Right.
The animal gets lonely. They have
Sure.
separate. Now, how would you tell people an animal that's been abused? That is such a disgrace. It is such a disgrace.
Yeah.
And what would be the first thing that a person would do if they have an animal that obviously shows signs of it? Like if you're a woman and you go to the
Right.
pound, you get a dog,
Sure.
and your husband comes in, the dog is terrified.
Right.
What could you do? What would be initially, what would you want to do with them?
The most important thing to remember with a dog, because people always make excuses for dogs, and this is humanizing a dog. And trust me, I love dogs more than people in a lot of ways. Okay? So when I say these things that I say it for compassion for the animal. Dogs function, I'm about to write an article on this, on what's called an imprint. Okay? They don't function on memory. Dogs live in the present. So that means if a dog was abused, he has an imprint on his mind of this abuse. If you continue to focus on this, like let's say what you said, that he's afraid of the husband.
Right.
Okay. So the mistake that people will make is to teeter-totter around the dog and to make everything okay and to make wishy-washy movements around the dog.
Right.
The dog needs a clear, strong leader. If the dog is deadly afraid of this person needs to become a very clear, strong leader to the dog. He can't baby the dog. If that husband then comes in and says, "Oh, it's okay, don't be afraid, this will escalate the dog's fear. Dogs don't function like children. I taught martial arts for 20 years, 10 of which I had a school in West Los Angeles, and I taught children. Children, we embrace them, and we make everything okay by loving embrace. With dogs, it's a completely different species of animal than humans. The way you embrace a dog is to strengthen the dog. That means you don't say, it's okay. When the dog is afraid, you become a strong leader and you say little, be strong, and obviously make the dog see you as a fair, strong leader by just being yourself, but not embracing and coddling the dog, because that will escalate the dog's fear drive.
So how would you make yourself appear to the dog, that particular dog?
I've had it many times. I just walk in the room and I sit down across from the dog. I may give it a treat, but I don't baby talk to the dog. I don't talk to the dog at all. I'll take the dog, maybe if it's in a corner, and I'll take it on a lead and pull it in front of me and have it sit next to me while I'm speaking to you. I don't speak to the dog. Because speaking to the dog, petting the dog, playing with the dog, puts me as an equal pack member with the dog. The dog needs to see leadership. If he sees me as a fair, strong leader, the imprint will then become this male is a fair, strong leader, and he will start to change his opinions and his imprint on that. Otherwise, you're continuing to escalate the problem. You can deal with a million different training issues and use a clicker or a treat or this or that, but you're going to drive the dog nuts. And the dog will continue to escalate in drive and in anger and in aggression. So let the dog see you as a fair, strong leader. You don't need to do anything to the dog. Dogs function on a completely, and all animals function on a much different level. You know, we're the only species that actually talks and communicates like this, besides, I think they say, dolphins. But we're also the only animals that, besides dolphins, that mate for pleasure. But that's a different topic. The dogs function on communication, on nonverbal communication. That I can stand in front of a dog and just have my energy there, and the dog will see that energy as a very strong leadership energy and will acquiesce to that. I can't explain it to the dog. And humans constantly try to explain to the dog, it's okay, I'm not going to hurt you, it's okay. You're wasting your breath. The dog does not understand this. And if you think about it, if a dog barks, what do we tell him to do?
Be quiet.
Right. That's what the dog thinks when you start talking to it, because that's barking to the dog. It's just gibberish. Show the dog what it needs to do, real clearly.
Just be quiet.
Be quiet and be strong. Be fair. Let the dog see you feeding it. Let the dog see you taking it for a walk. Let the dog see you being in his presence as an energy and as a fair person.
So barking again, how would you stop a dog from barking?
You really can't stop a dog from. I mean, you can use all these crazy citronella collars and stuff like that, but dogs are going to bark. Okay. The best way to get a dog to stop barking is to teach him to bark, and then teach him the out command. You know, you get them to bark. You rile them up, and then you say out, and then they won't bark.
Out.
Yeah, or German. I use German commands when I train dogs, so aus. But
why do people use German commands? I know I've seen a lot. I have a friend, one of my neighbors, who had a dog, and everything was in German.
Well, the German training, the Schitzen training, is probably the best training that dogs can go through.
And what's it called? Schitzen.
Schitzhund.
Okay.
Schitzhund. And there's different levels of it. German is a great language for dogs because it's very guttural. It's very strong. Fuß, halt, komm. You know, it's a very guttural.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a very guttural commanded language, so dogs understand it clearly and easily. We make our mistakes in English because we tell the dog, come here, come on, come on.
Right.
And it means nothing to a dog.
Right.
Because we communicate with a dog like we communicate with a child. They're different species of animals. If you really love your child, you wouldn't put a prong collar on your child and yank it across the room. If you really love your dog, you may put a prong collar on them for a strong correction so that they only need one correction. But again, any training technique, any training tool should be only used properly. And most people don't. Most people go to the pet store and buy some idiotic electric remote collar, have no clue how to use it, put it on the dog, and build a horrible drive in their dog. And then the dog ends up back in the shelter. You know, with a poor imprint on the dog, which it can always be changed. I took a dog out of a shelter, a Belgian Malinois. It was a beautiful dog. 5 months it spent in the shelter. It was so dog aggressive, and it's on my YouTube channel, you can check it out. So aggressive. Within 7 days, this dog would just lay down around other dogs.
Wow.
Had no issues. I never hit the dog, I never yelled at the dog. I trained the dog and gave it clear leadership and adopted it into a home in Orange County with a 13-year-old boy and a husband and wife, and they say the dog is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. And this was a dog that was 1 day away from death in our shelters.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
As the story, that's on YouTube? People can
That's
watch
on
that?
YouTube, yeah. It's called The Training of Zeus.
How many of those are on YouTube for people to see?
Right
How
now,
many
I
you got
probably
up there?
have 20 or 25.
So they can go to look for Bound Angels.
Yeah, boundangels.org. You got to stress the .org because there's probably a lot of other stuff out there. Or you can just Google it, and then you can go to our YouTube channel, and on there's, I think it's about 20 or so. You can see all the different ones, and you can subscribe, and you'll get updated whenever, or join our mailing list.
Are you doing instructional in the videos, or are you doing your cases that you've done?
This is just cases. This is just documenting what we've done, because instructional, every dog has a similar drive, but is different in temperament. So you have to approach each dog differently.
Right.
So I don't like to give instructions, blanket instructions, because it may confuse people. And most people don't have the ability to give a dog a correct correction. They will nag the dog with corrections, and it's so unfair to the dog. If you watch the way a dog establishes alpha in a dog pack, it's very strong, and it's very clear, and it's completely unemotional. Humans correct the dog, yell at the dog, yank on the leash a little bit, and get their emotions escalated, which escalates the dog's emotions. So you have two emotions being escalated, and it just eventually will come to a head, and 90% of the time, the human will say, all right, forget it. And then the dog will see that he won and will continue to want to win and will become the leader over this person. And it's a horrible message for a dog to send, because a dog is not capable of being your leader in today's society, where we have cars and roads and all these other conditions where they can get lost. If I was living in the woods, I would want a wolf as my leader. But if we're living in a city or in a suburban area with animals, I want to be my dog's clear leader. And I don't want him to make any mistakes. He knows 100% I'm his leader.
Wow, that's great.
It's fair.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing this? And how did you figure out? You said you have you told me earlier that you have a gift for.
I don't think I'm a trainer. I don't ever classify myself with other trainers, because I communicate with dogs. You know, to me, it's an absolute connection with an animal. I really felt it when I had a Shar-Pei, and I just started training him. I helped a friend of mine train a Doberman, and I went to my vet with another dog, and she said, what's wrong with the dog? And I said, oh, whatever it was a checkup. And she said, does he bite? I said, no, I've been working with him. She said, how did you do that? And I brought my other dog in, same thing. And she said, who trained your dogs? And I said, nobody, I just worked with them. And she said, I didn't know you were a dog trainer. And I said, I'm not. And she said, you are now. And then it just started going from there. So, you know, I get a lot of calls from people who the other trainers didn't really work. You know, it's really about understanding pack structure and understanding dog behavior, other than training them, because I don't train dogs how to sit or roll over or, you know, do begging tricks or anything like that. It sounds like
it's much more important. Robert, thank you for coming.
Yeah,
we're out of time, doggone
it. Great, doggone
it. Robert Cabral, Bound Angels.
Thank you.
You can look it up, you guys, and go look at those videos and educate yourselves and take good care of your dogs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you. My pleasure being here. Thank you.
All right.